my first experience hearing about Orisha initiations came through books, came through research and study. I was studying African art history while in an American cultural studies program. Later, I got a reading which told me some things. Later, I joined a Lukumi house and got elekes and warriors. And what I heard about initiation from the perspective of that particular Ile or Lukumi house was, it seemed like initiation was a goal that they had in mind for most people. I've come to understand that that's not necessarily the case, that based on divinings and what have you. But I looked at being in the Sidhu, I looked up the history of the word initiation, and I got that initiation was a beginning, a starting.
Yeah.
And my understanding of initiations has come to evolve to understanding it as a beginning. It is not, for instance, Itefa does not make one an Ifa priest. It only opens the road to start dealing with certain information that if the person's Ita reading says they should become a priest and they decide that they want to take on that, it's a lifetime of study and lifestyle.
I'm sure everything everybody said is really valid point. One word I would like to throw in is that it's a rebirthing. And it's a rebirthing with lining up with the Orisha who connects to your Ori, to your soul, to your life purpose. And when you find who that Orisha is, you now be rebirthed into your purpose, opposed to falling for all the other illusions of your life that you have lived prior to that. As the saying goes, if you don't know who you are or what you are, you fall for anything. And a lot of us have failed, right? We have failed for anything. And then when you realize that you no longer have to fall anymore for anything and you can live on purpose, you can be reborn into Orisha and live on purpose.
Okay, first of all, I feel that it's a process.
Okay.
It's a process in which there are no shortcuts, and getting the shortcuts, it does not make you a good priest. It really doesn't. In the Sadula house, all of the students would know that Chief Yuya, he actually challenges us, to think, and a lot of times the students, first of all, don't look for a godparent. Look for a teacher. And Chief Yuya is a teacher. And I say all of this is because if I went the other route with going just to get a crown, everybody wants to get a crown. Even the elders that you meet along your path, it's the importance of getting a crown, but no one tells you, no one actually shows you after getting that crown how or what are you going to do with those tools. So you basically, it's best that you have the training from the ground up, because I'm going to tell you right now, and everybody's a living witness. When we first started into the school, we all came with our own types of dogmas and our own types of things. Mm-hmm. Things were made clearer. They were made much clearer with the training. And that's what I have to say right now. The training is most important. Please find a teacher, a competent teacher.
I would liken it to, and as I spoke about rebirthing and coming in as a child. And, if we look in our environment and we see children that are not home trained, if we, see them acting up and they just don't know how to act, it's because nobody trained them how to have good character.
That's a great example.
Yeah, even as an adult, you go back into that childlike state, and you have to be retrained into good character in knowing how to act proper protocol.
Exactly. And I think it's important to point out that knowledge and training, well, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, all that has to do with being trained well. And training opens up, and knowledge opens up the ashe, which is the whole purpose of the initiation, spiritual evolution. But that's done through, my humble understanding, that's done through Iwapele, through good character. So it doesn't take any initiations to have good character. But on the other hand, no matter how many initiations one has, if the good character is missing, well, then the ashe is missing. And then if the ashe is missing, it's going to be hard for them to do all those things that all their titles say they're supposed to be able to do, because they're not living a certain way.
Sometimes with that title, mind you, sometimes with that title, and you can have that title all day long, but you go speaking to other people, they can find the emptiness within you that you are not properly trained. And I have that word, that little term I have called an empty crown. It's not a disrespect to anyone, but it actually is just the reality when you have not been trained. You can have you can have all the titles that you can have, but you do not have the training. You do not have good character. If you're not willing to learn, some people just get into this tradition, get a crown, and cease growing. Don't grow nothing.
Well, I agree with you 100%, brother, but I think we also need to point out we're living in a different time. We're living in a tremendously changing time, but we're living in a different time from, classical Ifa. The society is not the same as classical Yoruba society, and so we're doing a lot of translating. So I think if we look historically, this notion of training and initiation, training always came first. Years and years and years of training before the initiation would come. Things have changed so much now that I understand from a lot of my contacts in Nigeria that people will come in, get initiated with the hope, understanding, expectation, or prayer that they stay in touch and for further training down the line. Because traditionally people lived in the community. It was a family-based thing or clan. And kids would come and live with the priest and do chores and visit the house on the weekend and all that kind of thing. Prep school. We are not doing that now. And then when you have the initiation, which traditionally was synonymous with priesthood, well, now people read in the book, well, if I get this initiation, I'm a priest. So we have all these people claiming priesthood. And, I think the use of proper titles would help. Awo, as opposed to, Babalawo, which is like a senior priest, a senior Awo. People are still trying to get to old Awo, as opposed to a child of the secret, Omo Awo, which is supposed to take years and years after you get initiated to go from Omo Awo to just Awo. And that's, a regular priest. You're going to be there for years and years until you, maybe in your lifetime, can get to Baba Lawo. However, people go for a week in Nigeria, they come back nowadays, they're saying, I'm a Baba Lawo.
Okay, when I started on this walk, I've met many, many people. I knocked on many, many doors. And what I found out behind those doors, a lot of hurt people. There have been instances where one guy, he went and paid $5,000 for an initiation. and he had an empty pot. The entire ceremony was a sham. He was out of the money, left sitting in a corner. The guy went to Nigeria and got pimped by, when he was on his way into the groves, got pimped by everybody that was in there. He had already paid the money for the ceremony. That got pimped by everybody. All these people had to pay extra money. These are the things that he had to go through. There are sharks out there. There are some sharks, some professional sharks. But the thing, what I would suggest anyone to do is find a school, find a teacher, like Yuya and Sadula House. So when you go in there, you already know what's going on. You already know that I'm here to learn. I'm here to be challenged to learn. I'm here to open my awareness. I'm here to get deeper into myself first before I even think about Orisha or Mare, anybody. I got to get me together. And sometimes when you just get so hungry, just over that title, all of that just goes out of the window. But in the end, the only person hurt is the devotee.
Being taught by somebody who knows what they're talking about, and you can tell the difference. Because when someone who knows what they're talking about, you're constantly going, wow, whoa, constantly learning new things, as opposed to these people who mystify everything, but when you find out actually how much have I actually learned, you can fit it in a half a sheet of paper, a quarter of a sheet of paper.
A good teacher don't mind giving you a good butt kicking. And when I and they're not afraid. They're not afraid that they're going to hurt your feelings. They're not afraid of you, period. That they stand their ground. They stand who they are as a teacher and not swayed to the left or the right, because it's highly important that they stay on top. It's a foundation for us to learn from. And I've noticed within the spiritual training, when I first came in, you know, we all had our horror stories. I've had my horror story. But he wouldn't let me stay stuck on my horror story. Even though I wanted to wallow in my pity party of my horror story, he wouldn't allow me to stay in my horror story. And he forced me to come out of that. No matter how it hurt my feelings, no matter how I ranted, raved, cried, did everything. He didn't care. He didn't blink an eye. If I was there looking at him, I'm sure he didn't even blink an eye. And he stayed on point so that I can now be on point and realize the lessons that I've learned needed to make and shape me into a good student today.
And by he, we're referring to Yuya Asananu. Chief Jegna.
Yes. I have learned a lot, and I still have a long way to go. Chief Yuya already know he is the bomb. He's the bomb. Any kind of questions or concerns that I've always had, he always got back with me in a timely manner, and also he has given me more. My knuckles are just sore sometimes from just writing the notes, writing the stuff. He just don't know. He just be giving us so many gems. He just don't know the gems that he gives us, and I don't think I could have ever. I've had 3 teachers before Chief Yuya. I have never gotten the wisdom, the training that I've gotten thus far through Chief Yuya and the Sadula House. I have not, and he know he's the bomb because I'm always learning. I'm an information sponge, and with him, the information is fine, but you have to apply it. He gets nothing out of it, you don't apply it.